Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there friends, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. This week, we've been looking at Psalm 24. Let's just do a little review real quick. We have this psalm, as you just look at it, it sort of breaks itself into three parts. First is verses 1 and 2, praise of God in creation. The first day of creation is mentioned. This has been called, in some quarters, a Sabbath psalm because it begins on that first day. Verses 3 through 5 ask the question, who can ascend? And then we have verse 6, which is the result of the one who ascended, and that is the church, verse 6. Selah breaks now the psalm into halves, and we have the third section coming up. So the first section is 1 and 2, second section 3 through 6, third section 7 through 10. Now in 7 through 10, you might think, well, we're going to have a different section, it looks different, it acts different. We have this repeat that comes in verse 7 and then again in verse 9. We have the same question asked in verse 8 as is asked in verse 10. So there's a lot of repeating that goes on in the last four verses. But you'll notice that this acts as a unity because the question that began in verse 3 is now answered in 7 through 10, especially in verse 10. The question is answered and we're satisfied because now we know the answer to the who question in 3. Now, I've been suggesting the answer to the who question all along, but we really kind of put our thumb down on the answer in this last section, 7 through 10. So let me read for you today verses 7 and 8 here in Psalm 24. Lift up your heads, O gates, and cause them to be lifted up, O eternal doors, so the King of glory will come. Who is this King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. So these gates and these eternal doors, who do they belong to? Where are they? We need to understand that. So often these eternal doors, these gates are considered the gates of Jerusalem. And some have suggested that this is a psalm that was written when the ark was carried into the city of David, and it was placed in that tabernacle that David had created for it. It has been brought up to Jerusalem, placed in the ark, placed in the tent that was created for it. It's also considered, these gates and eternal doors, the city of Jerusalem again, but this time the triumphal entry. So when the gates are told to lift up their heads and the eternal doors to be lifted up, this is speaking of the triumphal entry of the Lord Jesus when he comes into Jerusalem. So on one hand, we have the ark coming in. On the other hand, we have the triumphal entry. Some have seen this as the descent into hell. So these are the gates and the eternal doors of hell. And Jesus ascends into hell and leads captivity out of hell. He leads them captive. So he breaks the chains and the bars and takes the doors off their hinges and releases all those who are there in that place at his resurrection, or before his resurrection during that period when he's in the grave. So these eternal doors, these eternal bars are considered in those three things. The gates and bars and doors of Jerusalem, when the ark comes through, when Jesus comes through at the triumphal entry, or perhaps the gates, bars, and doors of hell, when he comes out with the captivity that has been captive in that place. I would like to suggest a fourth reading for Lift Up Your Head, O Gates, because we have him ascending, and we're still thinking about this idea of his ascending into the hill of the Lord. I would like to see these gates and eternal doors as the gates and doors of Zion, because they're eternal doors. Jerusalem's doors and gates have been burned and destroyed many times. So those are not eternal doors. The ones that we're speaking about, I think, are the gates and doors of Zion. And those gates and doors are told to lift up their heads and be lifted up so that the King of Glory will come in. So who's ascending into the hill of the Lord? The King of Glory. He's the one coming. He's entering into that place. Who can ascend? Only one, the King of Glory. And so he's ascending into that Zion, that heavenly Jerusalem, that place where the Father abides. Verse 8 asks the question again, who is this King of Glory? Well, it's the one that verse 3 told us about, the one ascending into the hill of the Lord, rising up into the holy place, standing there. The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. So we're identifying this person as the Lord himself. He is the one who has done victoriously. He's done wonderfully on the cross. He's been raised from the dead, and now he enters into his glory there in the heavenly city. All right, join me again tomorrow. We're going to look at verses 9 and 10 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.